No. Starting the podcast and hearing myself in my own ears is the worst way to start a podcast. So, welcome to episode 31 of the Gaming Perspective podcast, the most consistently late podcast on a Saturday night, except for the Inner Circle podcast. So, hello and welcome. And I'll introduce my panel for tonight. Eric is off in celebrating his birthday dinner with his wife. So, I wish him all the best, as I know those time to yourself and your wife, once you have kids, it goes out the window. So enjoy yourself. So I'll introduce the usual suspects here. We've got Mr. Samuel Tolbert, editor for the Inner Circle Games Network.
Hello, how's it going?
And we have writer for the Inner Circle Games Network, Jared.
How's it going, everybody? Thanks for tuning in. Let's get talking.
And dropping in for the first time is special English special guest. Introduce yourself, tell us where you're from, and give everyone a little bit of a 60-second plug.
Okay, I can do that. I'm Matthew. Some call me Finn. I've been known to be Torpedo Vegas for some inexplicable reason. I am the creator of everyone's favorite mascot, Saki. I am known on the Twitters and whatnot as the Nolan Nerdcast. I have my own show, but I'm also, my main claim to fame, I guess, is I'm a part of the SDGC podcast. Good friends with Nick and Sam here, and I've just met Mr. Rage over here, so he seems all right. We'll pass judgment later. Basically, just on Twitter at Nolan Nerdcast. I've got the Nolan Nerdcast show by itself is more comics-based than gaming-based. So I get my gaming fix with you guys. So makes me happy.
There you go.
And I can tell you from personal experience, if you have any questions about some of the more anime games or just anime in general, he's a great guy to talk to.
If you need some weeaboo advice, if you need comic books, if you marketing or PR, because that's what I do for a living, that's what I'm here for. Go team.
That is an extensive resume of knowledge, especially in gaps of knowledge that I have, because my knowledge of anime is, as Sam would say, dismal.
Same here.
It's all that time spent around Bandai Namco.
It just rubs off on you.
That would do it. They make really great games, though. I look at some of those games. Like, I don't even like Dragon Ball, and I want like Dragon Ball FighterZ. I'm just like,
I really need Code Vein in my life. I was pretty upset with the delay because it should have been out by now.
Oh, don't worry, the delay will be worth it.
I know.
The Code Vein looks awesome. I didn't get a chance to actually play it, but I looked over some people's shoulders when they were playing at E3. And it's good. It looks really good.
I'm excited because being a huge Dark Souls fan, I'm just all over that. Plus, it has a really cool, unique anime style, art style to it. So I'm like, that's actually a really cool combination. I think it's going to do really well.
Yep. Right on. All right. So we're kind of talking about 2018 as a whole for video games. So there's going to be a lot of stuff to cover, but there's one or two news-based items we want to just touch on for the sake of not missing them, but they're not enough to do a whole episode on. So Jared, I believe, is one of the few people on this cast that managed to get some time to actually play some Red Dead Redemption online beta.
Which is a shame because everybody else should be at least giving it a try.
Dude, I haven't even beat the game yet. I can't even justify turning the online on yet.
You can not play the single player campaign at all and go straight into multiplayer. Still have a good time. No, actually, not actually that good. So good.
I won't say anything. I won't say anything.
As someone who hasn't even played Red Dead, I feel very confident to give you my definitive take on the online.
I mean, that seems what the community.
I'm all ears.
That's a pretty standard Twitter thing, right? You've never played something, you don't intend
However,
to play it.
I have read what other people say, and I have now come to a conclusion that I will never budge from.
There you go.
All right.
You have excellent secondhand information, and that is enough to form a defining opinion.
So I'm pretty sure I have aced the internet.
You got it.
Sorry, Jared. Matt, actually, because of reading second-party information, knows more about Red Dead Online than you do because of reading versus actually playing it. So.
I hate it when the internet undermines me. Every time.
Isn't that terrible?
Every time.
It's terrible.
Horrible.
So
Oh man,
give us a rundown. Red Dead 2 Online, and keeping in mind it's a beta.
Yeah. So they say it's a beta, but it's basically the full online experience. But I don't know what more to say on that one because it's really fleshed out. It works very well. If you liked the world and the interactivity and how dynamic the experience is in the single player campaign, you basically go on to continue it with the online portion of it. The character creator is a little interesting. The characters don't look that good. Like, it doesn't matter how hard you try, you're never gonna get a good looking guy. It's gonna end up looking hobo-ish or just kind of like nitty, nasty, Wild West, rotten teeth, just nastiness. It's gonna end up being that way, no matter how nicely you dress too, by the way. When you get into free roam and you do the short tutorial where it's a bunch of co-op missions, they're kind of interesting story and just gives you a reason to keep playing or gives you a reason to be playing the online. But when you get into the free roam portion, there's up to sometimes 32 other players in the world with you. So you got to keep your head on a swivel. Got to have eyes in the back of your head because there's been multiple times where I'll be just riding along and all of a sudden I'm dead on the ground because someone put Deadeye on, aimed at me, got the headshot on, and I'm just, dead. And now I'm being hunted down because he's red and he can see me because you can open up the map and you can see where every single player is, where they move. You can actually watch it and see when people die because you'll see two people fighting, these two dots going towards each other. Then one will disappear and then spawn over here. And then go over against each other and this one will die. And then spawn over here. And it goes over this way. So it's kind of interesting how if you have assholes in your server, it's not going to be a good time. There's no way for you to have like your own single one player lobby online like you kind of did in GTA 5. Because I know you could do that, and I enjoyed it because I didn't have to deal with people like that online. This time around, it's not so much like that. I kind of understand why, because it makes the world much more interesting, but at the same time, it doesn't make me want to play it. So they have a lot of good things going for it. If you have good people and you're having people that are actually wanting to play and not just be trolls, then you can have a good time. If you got trolls on your server, you're not going to have a good time, and I probably wouldn't end up playing. So I'm a little mixed feelings on it. If they keep refining it and give you more options to where you have to do something to activate player versus player in the world, otherwise you don't get damage sort of thing, that would be nice. But yeah, that's my take on it right now.
That's fair.
Yeah, that seems to line up with the general consensus I've seen online. A lot of the complaints is that the game modes are fairly limited. It feels kind of a cut and paste to GTA, and it lost a lot of the charm that the original Red Dead Online had, which sucks because the original Red Dead Online was amazing.
Never played it, so this is my first impression of Red Dead Online.
That was actually, I think, one of the first online games I actually got into heavy on 360 outside of playing Call of Duty. Yeah, I don't know what it is. After I finish Red Dead Redemption 2, like the actual story, I probably won't pick the game up again. I don't know. The online portion just doesn't seem interesting.
The end game will keep you wanting to play. Trust me. The way that game's designed, even still to this day, I'm still playing a little bit of the single player end game almost every day.
Man, I'm on that good Fallout 76 stuff. That is the movement right now.
Ooh, another game that I've never played, but I have very strong opinions.
Oh Lord, no, I cannot handle.
We're not going there.
We are.
Let's go there. No, let's just go straight for the danger zone, man.
Canvas Bag Gate. Okay.
I was thinking that earlier. Canvas Gate.
I have to give a shout out to Ains from the Seasoned Gaming, because we asked him in a group DM. We were like, so you bought the collector's edition. How do you feel about the whole canvas versus nylon thing? He's like, who gives a shit? It's a bag. He's like, all I cared about was the power helmet, and the map was way nicer than I thought it was going to be.
Hey, that power helmet is sweet.
Yeah, I heard the helmet's cool with the voice modulator.
Yeah,
the
voice
helmet is
modulator
top
cool.
tier.
Apparently, the map that you get with it is actually a really high quality, and it looks like third-party made. So you can actually frame it, and it actually looks really nice. So,
I actually have a
there you
collection of video game maps. I might have to hunt one of those down.
I still got the
I
original
believe-
Red Dead Redemption map.
Honestly, I think the bag would have been a 0 factor if it didn't already have stuff that people were already feeding off of. The bag was just for any other scenario. Like if Fallout 76 came out and it was killing it and everyone was loving it, the bag thing would have been no one would have cared. It's only a big issue right now because of the scenario we're in at the moment.
Yep,
Absolutely.
pretty much. Like, does anyone remember with Mass Effect Andromeda with the Pathfinder Collector's Edition? They had that really cool backpack they were marketing, and then all of a sudden it turned out to be like a kitty-style plastic covered backpack. That was something. But once again, that's just Mass Effect Andromeda giving me chills down my spine. So
The other news we're touching on briefly.
So the last topic before we get into 2018 as a whole is Rocksteady finally came out and said something about the game they were working on, because at E3 there was the rumor Superman game was going to be there, and then Rocksteady came out and was like, no, we're not going to be here, we're still hard at work in development, we'll show you something soon. And then out of nowhere a rumor came out that it's showing up at the Video Game Awards. So Rocksteady came out and was like, no, we're not going to be at the Video Game Awards. We're still working hard on the development. P.S. It's not Superman.
Not Superman as in it's not a Superman, game. That does not mean Superman is not in the game.
Because they didn't say anything, but like Sam, Jason came out. Jason Schreier said that what he knows, because he's not flat out telling us, is that it's a team-based game. And just from that information alone, does not rule out a Justice League game with Superman in it, because technically they're not lying. It's not a Superman game.
And let's be honest here. Let's call a spade a spade. Doing a Superman-only game would be ridiculously difficult. I cannot imagine the hell that balancing that would be. But doing a team-based game where it's all people on Superman's level, that's where you can work with that. That's doable. You know, if all you're fighting is like the new gods and all you're fighting is like Doomsday and, you know, that kind of thing, that works. But a Superman only game trying to figure that, I would not envy anyone trying to figure that
Superman Returns got the closest, where it was Superman doesn't have a health bar, but you lose if the city takes too much collateral damage.
Right. That's you have to do something like that.
They just didn't execute it very well.
Right. So it's interesting to say the least. I think it's probably a Justice League game. Most likely. That seems the likely answer here. But we'll see. It's not going to be at the TGA. So at this point, I would say either they do like a standalone reveal around March or April, they do their own teaser, or we're waiting until E3 2019. But it is nice. I will say it's nice for them to break the silence and get out here and say something, because they've been really quiet for the past few years. They've been extremely quiet. And I'll be honest, guys, I can't remember a time, although I'm sure there was, I'm sure someone will message me and correct me, but I can't remember a time where there were so many contradictory leaks about what something was.
Ooh, you know what? That's a solid point. It might, even if it doesn't end up being the most contradictory, it's definitely up there.
It's up there.
There's been so many leaks going one way or the other.
Yeah, so that's interesting. That's just more an interesting thing. But we'll see. Thank you, Rocksteady, for coming out and saying something. We'll see you in 2019.
Yep, that's pretty much sums it up, because they're not ready to show something. They're not ready to show something. Kudos to them for not wanting to unveil it too early, too.
Yeah.
That's like why I sit down and be like, well, we want to be ready to show it. I'm fine with that. I'm happy with not knowing about something 5 years in advance.
I prefer, I have said for years now, I prefer the until this year. I prefer the pre-E3 2018 Bethesda model of, hey, here's what we've got for the next 12 months. That's all we're going to tell you about. Yep. I like that. Tell me what's coming out soon. Don't bother me with anything else. But
totally agree.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just how it goes. I'm sure there'll be tons more rumors debunked or proven or disproven after the Video Game Awards. I'll be interested to see if Borderlands 3 makes a show up after, you know, the 19th rumor that Borderlands 3 is showing up to an event.
I think this time it finally has some validation based on what he said with all the threes.
I think
At the
it's
very
not
least
the
the teaser.
Yeah, it's not only the threes, Matt. It's the thing of, if they're not going to do it here, then when?
Yeah.
Because we are rapidly getting to a point where no one is going to care about Borderlands.
I mean, we might already be at that point, unfortunately.
We might already be at that point, but the thing is, like, I'm trying to think of how to say this. Certain IPs, if they go dormant for a long time, people are just going to go nuts and they're going to be hyped for it when it finally comes back. Borderlands is not one of them. Borderlands was unique because it was the only real console looter shooter at the time.
And now have others.
Yeah, now we've got Destiny. Now we've got
step
the
up
Division.
Exactly. Like substantially, almost an engine overhaul sort of thing. Like, okay, go to the same art stuff, but buff it up to something maybe a little bit more beefier, and then just overhaul everything. Just make it like a whole new Borderlands, but make it Borderlands 3.
Yeah,
because you gotta wonder how they're gonna work the games as a service model into it, because you know they will. There's no way Borderlands 3 doesn't employ that in some fashion.
No. My guess would be, and I'm not Gearbox, I'm not Randy Pitchford, so I couldn't tell you, but if I had to guess, it would be additional characters and additional story missions for, like, hey, here's a new character for $3.99, or hey,
they're going to cosmetic.
Yeah,
I was going to go cosmetic route.
Oh, you think they'll go the cosmetic route? Okay.
Oh yeah, because Borderlands is all about like the really crazy aesthetic, like look of your character.
Gunskins, dude.
Exactly.
I'm just wondering how. Okay, I hear what you're saying. But I'm wondering, how do you do that without compromising the integrity of the game? Because even Borderlands 2, 1 bajillion guns was the selling point.
Right. That's why it's all cosmetic. You don't worry about it. Doesn't change the attributes.
Oh, okay. So you're just saying like character blank.
Yeah,
like Fortnite style.
A good actually example of this that instantly comes to mind for me is with World of Warcraft. They have something called Transmogrify in the game for your gear, your weapons, and stuff like that. So any gear that you collect, you end up learning their skins or having your skins in your inventory.
Maybe.
So you go to Transmogrify that one specific item, and you keep the stats and everything like that, but you change the look of that one specific item. So it could be like your headpiece, chest, legs, gloves, your weapon, your shield, your ranged weapon, whatever. You could all be this one set of armor, but look completely different.
Yeah,
they could do the same thing in Borderlands 3. Like
maybe I'm thinking about the wrong way. You guys could be right.
Yeah,
my thing is, sorry. After you, Nick.
Basically, I think they'll do the same kind of model they did with Borderlands 2. Add cosmetic DLC, and they'll make money by the bucket loads. Because I didn't play Borderlands 2 a lot. I played the original one a ton. Didn't really care for 2. But didn't they sell characters as DLC? Like, you could play, like, they sold characters separately after launch. Like, Borderlands 2 had, like, DLC characters.
Yes. There was DLC characters. I don't know if they sold them separately, but
the main thing was the missions. That was the main thing that they focused on, was like, the secret vault, or the armory of General Knox and some other stuff. They had post-game missions that they sold. That was the main thing.
They had a lot of cool characters too. Like, they've got some really memorable NPC-like characters that there's just so funny. Man, that game was great.
Yeah, so maybe that'll show up. Who knows? Maybe it'll be a battle royale game with microtransactions. Who knows? Borderlands 3 by Tencent.
Oh no!
Okay.
Borderlands Mobile.
Borderlands Mobile. Shush your mouth. If there is a mobile announcement at the Video Game Awards, I am uninstalling Twitter from my phone. I'm not looking at Reddit. I'm not touching anything. There is no possible way that I can deal with the amount of rage people will have for that. Good Lord.
Oh man. Too funny.
So 2018's been a ride for video games as a whole. We've seen some ups, we've seen some downs, we've seen some what are you doing? So the big thing is that there was huge sequels for tons of games this year. We saw sequels for common franchises that we see on a somewhat regular basis, such as Assassin's Creed, Battlefield, Call of Duty, etc. But we also got some really ones we don't see too often. We got God of War, Hitman got a sequel. I don't think a lot of people were expecting this soon. We got Red Dead Redemption 2 on a date that a lot of people thought maybe it'd get delayed into spring. We got an amazing Spider-Man game, which took everyone, well, not necessarily took everyone by surprise, but a good Spider-Man game is rare. And the first thing we're going to talk about is what brought Capcom back into the game, so to speak. And that was with the January release of Monster Hunter World, which was the first debut of Monster Hunter outside of a handheld platform, I believe there's a PS2 game way back in the day.
There was also a Wii game. There was also a Wii game.
Wii and Wii U.
And a Wii U.
But no one remembers those. So
no one remembers the Wii U game at bare minimum. But no, Monster Hunter World is a good place to put it because that's the first real big game that came out this year. And speaking as someone who never played them before, I picked it up and I loved it. It was awesome. I know I've heard from some people that it's a little more casual than the others. I don't know that. I can't verify that because I never played the others. But I had a lot of fun with it. I put like 40, 50 hours into it. And I want to put some more time in over December, January, because it's a lot of fun. And it's performed ridiculously well for them.
Well, I think there was a lot of demand for the Monster Hunter games outside of Nintendo platforms for a long time. I always sat there when the game was on handhelds. It was doing exceptionally well for them. I sat there and went, man, if you made a console version of that game, what you'd be able to do with it versus a handheld version would be insane. And then along came Monster Hunter World, and people absolutely devoured this game. Like my whole Discord clan, I didn't get to play anything with them for a month because they spent a straight month playing Monster Hunter World, and I was too broke to buy it at the time. I was just like, guys, what we playing tonight? They're like, we're playing Monster Hunter World. What you playing? I'm like, I guess I'm doing stuff by myself. But yeah, what the big thing with Monster Hunter World and why it's such a big deal is it resurrected people's faith in Capcom. And when I say that, that's not to put down what Resident Evil 7 did for Capcom, but the financial success that Capcom found with Monster Hunter World was phenomenal as well as critical, whereas Resident Evil 7 performed very well and it sold progressively better over time, but did not have the launch. It still breaks my heart to this day that Resident Evil 6 outsold Resident Evil 7.
Yeah. But I will credit 7 for being the start of the turnaround for Capcom this gen.
Definitely.
Yeah, that was the start. That was absolutely the start. Because I mean, let's be honest. Before that, they had not done well. Let's be honest. Like they were having a bit of a rough time, but I think Resident Evil 7 not selling as well as 6 was natural because you were going to have people be cautious as a result of 6. So I think, with Resident Evil 8, inevitably when that comes around, and then more importantly, the Resident Evil 2 remake, which is right around the corner, you're not going to see people be hesitant.
Hell no. What they're doing with the engine and that game right now, it's astounding. It's incredible. Honestly, they could go and remake every single of their games in that direction, in that way, and I'd be okay with it because I'd buy the hell out of that game because Resident Evil 7, I loved it. I'm a big horror game fan, and when I played that game, I was very, very impressed with what it did, especially with the audio design of that game too. It's fantastic.
So the VR for that game was terrifying.
I wish I could play it in VR so badly. I wish. That'd be great.
I can't imagine what it was like.
It's just the quality though. Like it's such actual good high quality gameplay that we all know with Resident Evil 2, what we've seen. I know Sam, you've seen it in person too. It's gonna blow people away. I think I'm just like so excited for it.
The big thing
really damn good at the show.
It does.
The beautiful thing is we went from Capcom in early 2017 to late 2017, where they were sitting there and they were in this position where people are like, someone needs to buy Capcom because they're floundering.
Yeah.
And now we're looking at Capcom and they're back in the big leagues again.
It's a nice feeling.
It feels great because they've made
awesome.
so many good games. And unfortunately, they had a lot of their good games kind of flounder at the same time. Like Street Fighter didn't do as well as it could have. Resident Evil's kind of
I
been.
will give them credit for that, only in the sense that much like Ubisoft with like Rainbow Six Siege and other games, they never gave up on it, kept releasing content, and now Street Fighter V is top tier.
Yep.
Oh yeah. They didn't get, even if it had a lackluster launch, they did not give up on that thing, and that's
It's very easy to give up, and I don't think we had ever really seen a fighting game used as a games as a service model before. So
I think Killer Instinct bears argument.
No, you're right, but which came out?
But
first?
it's not the same model though. It's not the same thing. It's not. Killer Instinct was more of a. It kind of landed okay, and then it's just steadily, slowly done a little bit better. Whereas, Street Fighter V was like a complete turnaround. So it's a little different. But yeah, but hats off to Capcom. What's Monster Hunter World's latest sales number? It's well over 10 million. I know that.
I think it's 11, 12 million, somewhere in that ballpark. Yeah. It's up there.
It's insane.
Yeah, that's good. That's fantastic to hear.
It's astronomically smashed any sales expectations they had. It's still, I believe it's still in the top 10 best-selling games this year. I think.
I can pull up our NPD page and find that, but I think you're right.
I'm pretty sure.
Can I just do a brief breakdown real quick?
Please.
Or something?
Please.
Just what Capcom released this year in terms of just how 2018 has been so good for them.
Sure, but please.
The Street Fighter V Arcade Edition, which is just like the revamp, so that's less important, but like Monster Hunter World, the big thing for me was the revival of Mega Man. This year was big for Mega Man. I mean, we got the Legacy collections, the Mega Man X Legacy collection. We've got Mega Man 11, and we got a new cartoon. And I'm ashamed to say that I'm morbidly looking forward to the live-action movie that's in the process. But the fact that this year we got more Mega Man than in the past decade combined makes me really happy.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, I am not a Mega Man fan at all, but I am very happy for it to come back like that. That's a good thing. Like, even though it's like, I know it's not for me, I'm glad other people are having a blast with it and it's back in full force. That's a good thing.
Oh, man, you don't even know. My love of Mega Man, that's probably most of why Mega Man and Mario were the two games that were my first games.
That's fair. That's completely fair. And Nick, since you asked, yeah, Monster Hunter World is currently, as of October, the 7th best-selling game this year.
That's incredible. You think it
really is?
That's stunning.
You think about it, that means it's managed to stay on that list with things like God of War, Spider-Man, Call of Duty, NBA, all those sports games.
Red Dead. Yeah, exactly. And to blow your mind even further, you gotta keep in mind, Black Ops 4 and Red Dead Redemption 2 instantly became the first and second best-selling games this year when they launched. So pre-October, Monster Hunter World was the 5th best-selling game this year. A popular handheld game, but a handheld, mostly Japanese title.
Yeah, unheard of. Considering that, I think combined, every other console Monster Hunter game sold less than Monster Hunter World did.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Or maybe just barely even. Yeah, it's insane. So hats off to them. They're doing insane. What was the next real big thing that came out in 2018?
I wanted to touch on something just because we've seen at the start of this generation we had remasters that didn't feel different. They felt the same. They felt up-res. They weren't remasters. But now, in the past few years, we've gotten these things that are beautiful called remakes.
Yes.
And the first remake I want to talk about, there's two that we're going to talk about today, but the first one for me that stood out astronomically came out in February, and that's Shadow of the Colossus. And we could argue the fact that it's a PS2 game that got remastered on PS3 and then got remastered again on PS4. But it's a game
that's the difference between a remaster and a remake.
Yes.
Yeah, the PS3 version was a remaster.
Yeah. And the big thing is that studio, they are absolute wizards. The fact they basically rebuilt that game from the ground up, but still felt like the same game, but it was better. And being able to do that is a feat in itself, and not charging full price for it was brilliant.
Yep.
And the game was incredible. It was my first time experiencing it. I did own PlayStation consoles before, but that was one of those games that with the friends that I had that were in the more casual space of things, no one ever introduced me to that game. Mm-hmm. And it was my first time playing it. And some of the encounters in that game with the Colossi are just, they're jaw-dropping. And the remake did a lot of justice to just how amazing it can be. I'm trying to remember the Colossi that blew me away the most. But I think the first one that really made me go, wow. I can't remember which number it was, but it's the one where you have to latch onto the bird when it's flying over the lake.
Yes, that's the fifth one. That's number Colossi number 5. Don't remember the name, but yeah, that encounter was done really well. Much like you, Nick, this was my first time playing Shadow of the Colossus. I never played on the PS2 or the PS3. I have my quibbles. I think Agro controls like garbage, if I'm being perfectly honest. And the Desert Worm Colossi, that will really screw you over, the way those controls are done. It's not easy. But I will say, in spite of that, it is a heartfelt journey. It is still a heartfelt journey well worth experiencing. And the scale of what Ueda's team was trying to do being fully realized by the software wizards at Bluepoint, that is fantastic. It really was.
Yeah. And just the level that we're taking remakes now and how much passion is being thrown into them is it feels less and less like the reskins that we used to get. And now when people say remake, you feel excited about it now.
You know, yeah, because this gen has given us Shadow. We're getting Resident Evil 2. We got Ratchet and Clank.
Mm-hmm.
And I really love that.
Spyro, which I've actually played a decent amount of the first one, and it's really good. It's really enjoyable.
Gotten to the point where Bluepoint is working on a game. I'm like, all right, I guess I'm in.
Yeah.
We don't know what it'll be, but it'll be great. There's a lot of theories running rampant. Even if it's unlikely, I'm selfishly holding out for Demon Souls. I'm selfishly holding out for Demon Souls. But honestly, anything would be good. Whatever it is, it's going to be at least worth taking a look.
No, I wanted to. Whenever we move on to the next game, I was wondering if I could say something.
Please.
Yeah, go for it.
Because we've already skipped it over, and I feel like it is my duty as the guest here to do it justice.
Okay.
That is Dragon Ball FighterZ came out this year.
That's right.
And that game, let me just say, wildly surpassed anyone's sales expectations internally.
How can you not want to play if you're a Dragon Ball fan in any way, shape, or form? It's like you kind of just
because there have been so many fighting games before, but never one treated as an actual fighting game instead of just an anime game with them in it.
Yeah, and it's like it's a true Dragon Ball game. Like it's not a fighting game; it's a Dragon Ball fighting game. Like,
and I just want to point out that they did the unthinkable this year, which was it unseated Street Fighter at EVO, and it got more applicants at EVO this year, and Street Fighter has never been dethroned in the I want to say like 20 years of EVO. Mm-hmm. It's never been touched like that, and to have a game come out in January, and then by the time applications ended, it was unheard of. And me, just personally, I felt very vindicated. I don't know how many people know Dragon Ball, but Yamcha is the greatest character of all time, and he's one of the best characters in the game. And I just felt so personally vindicated about that even if the game was bad, I would have been happy. So please continue. I'm happy.
What makes you think of how Jump Force is going to be though now? Because that one looks pretty good too, with the whole on anime crossover universes. It's like even me, I'm not a big anime fan. I like some. I've seen some, and I look at that game and I go, that just looks like just a ton of fun in general.
That's the thing. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, it
doesn't.
You don't have to be a
level of quality of game as Dragon Ball FighterZ.
That's true, but to me, it just feels so just. You don't have to be a fan of anime. It's just going to be all out fun. Just go at it, and it's just going to look. I don't know. I could go on ramble on about the same thing over and over again.
But yeah, sorry, Nick. I didn't mean to.
No. That's well worth pointing out because I had no idea that's the case. So having someone like you who knows that point that out,
and that's why if you guys, if I'm skimming over something that seems relevant, feel free, any of you guys, to jump in and throw it in there. I'm just going more off of games that I experienced, and I definitely, this year's been crazy. So if I miss something, like in January, we got Celeste as well, but I haven't had a chance to play it yet, and it's on the Game of the Year nomination list. So,
yeah. So, man, Celeste is in my personal top 10.
There you go. There you go.
But I didn't know if we were talking indie games.
No, but there were worth
any games are worth talking about. Any game.
Yep. Oh yeah, just games in general.
I will say one thing though is I really wish Konami would start answering my emails because I keep telling them Blue Point, Metal Gear Solid. I just keep sending them that email and they won't. They never respond. I don't know why.
You know what? It's a bad idea.
Pachinko. So
part of me morbidly wants Nintendo to port and upgrade Twin Snakes to the Switch. Just because it was ridiculous, but it was really fun playing Metal Gear 1 in a slightly updated method. But I would love a Metal Gear 1 done in a Metal Gear 5 engine.
Dude, why stop there? Dude, throw the others in there as well for that.
Right?
The Fox engine is incredible, and it hurts me that Konami now holds the Fox engine and is not using it for anything.
Oh, they're using it for Metal Gear Survive. That's a great use of that engine.
I said they weren't using it for anything, Nick. No, seriously, the Fox engine needs to be used for other games. If they ever do, in the insanely unlikely event they do a remake, please remake those games with the Fox engine, by all means. So now I guess we're at March, really. In terms
there's a few games. I just want to, if we just breeze over these, I'm fine.
Sure.
But I feel like they deserve to be mentioned. I picked up Secret of Mana remake. That was really, really good. I never played it before. I got off a recommendation from someone. It was a great RPG. What was the other game here? We are still in February here. Metal Gear Survive came out. That was great, right? No? Okay. There was one more game that I wanted to mention that came out. Oh. This is more of a thing for PSVR owners than anything else. But one of the first must-own VR titles, in my mind anyway, came out in February, and that's Moss. Moss came out in February.
Maybe Moss? Yeah.
Yeah, Moss is a phenomenal.
Oh, we talking Moss?
Yes.
Yep.
We're talking PSVR and Moss. And I have played Moss, and Moss is incredible.
Yes, and this is what I want to talk about, because pre-February 2018, I was not fully on board with PSVR because there was a handful of experiences where I left going, this is really amazing. And then the rest were kind of like, a lot of this feels like shovelware. And then Moss came. And I went, this is it right here. This is the direction, and this is the kind of software that you need to push this platform forward. And lo and behold, we get things like Astrobot, and
I cannot wait to talk about that.
There's tons of must-own PSVR titles this year. This year has been
2018 was the year that it came into its own, and I'm really looking forward to next year.
Yeah.
What'd you say, Sam?
No, I was just saying Nick actually put together a fantastic piece on why PSVR has come into its own in 2018.
I read that.
Yeah, talking about how it's really taken on. And I will say this as well, coming from someone who didn't believe in VR, I'm more than willing to give it a chance at this point.
If you haven't played Astrobot, it is I rolled my eyes before I played it when that one guy on Twitter called it the Mario 64 moment for VR. Doing for VR what Mario did for 3D. But
those are bold words.
It's gonna be one of those games that is not just on my list for this year, but will probably be there for the generation.
Wow.
It does things with platforming and VR that I just can't even. It's, oh man, so good.
I think platforming is a genre that really benefits from VR, because the thing is platforming games, and people are going to slap me for this, but platforming games have felt stale in a sense for a little while, because it's really hard to make platforming games exciting. And because in the past 30 years, there's been a lot done with them. And it's kind of like, what's the next step? And I think Moss and Astrobot have done a good job of showing people what the next possible step could be.
Yeah. I'm actually, if I don't know if you did a look at what's on in the future for PSVR, but there's 2 games coming that you need to keep an eye on. One is Star Child and one is Golem.
Okay,
yes.
I've heard the names, and that's literally it, but I will keep an eye out.
I follow so much PSVR stuff, I need to buy one at this point.
Neither of them have had deep dives yet, but those are going to be the next 2 to keep an eye out on.
Gotcha.
And now, I need to pick up a PSVR.
And I do too. I'm in serious risk of putting us on a giraffe trail here, so if we don't have time, then just slap me down, Nick. But I do have a question for you guys in terms of, with the success Sony is seeing from PSVR, how do you think this is going to affect their development cycles at their studios in 2019 and, more importantly, 2020 as we move into the inevitable PS5? Because, correct me if I'm wrong, but games need to be built from the ground up for PSVR to have an impact. Like,
if you want them to be good, yes.
If you want them to be good, not shovelware. If you want them to actually be...
Because the worst stuff for VR this year has been the games that are just like, and we have a VR mode, like Final Fantasy 15, or Resident Evil 7 is the exception.
Resident Evil 7 is an extreme exception.
Crushed it with the VR mode of that game. But like anytime someone says like, and we have a VR experience, like Kingdom Hearts 3 has a VR experience for it, what that means is garbage. It is nothing, and it just takes resources away from real stuff.
Right.
But yeah.
So my question is, how do we think that's going to affect them moving forward in terms of, because a couple of their developers, if I remember correctly, the Northwest studio, Sony Manchester, that they started, that's supposed to be a VR only team. We haven't heard anything from them. I presume they're still building or whatever. And then there's one other, it's London studio. Yeah. They're the ones working on Bravo Team.
Blood and Sweat.
No. Bravo Team was the terrible game from Supermassive. My mistake. Yeah. Yeah. So my question is, how do you guys think that's going to affect them? Do you think they're going to have to be careful in terms? Yeah, Blood and Truth. Thank you. Sorry, they run together for me.
I think, me personally, that we won't see very many teams being diverted to do a PSVR game. We'll see new teams in studios be brought up to do a VR game. If that makes sense. Like, I don't think they're gonna divert resources from PS5 only games for VR titles, but you might see more studios pop up that are dedicated to the PlayStation VR.
You mean kind of like a Pixel Opus, where they split 10, 15 people off from an existing team, and they're like, hey, here's a tiny team. We're just going to let them work on something for a while and just incubate teams like that, like maybe a Japan studio as well.
And also, I was saying Dan in chat brought up the fact that because they're generally smaller in scope, their dev times are smaller. And that's true. That's why you see a lot of indie VR games, because the dev cycle for a VR game is much less.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Supermassive has put out how many VR games? They aren't any good, but...
I liked Inpatient a lot.
I hear mixed things about the Inpatient. I hear mixed things. It really
depends on how much you love Until Dawn.
Okay, I love Until Dawn.
Well, then you'll like Inpatient.
Okay, but Bravo Team was garbage, is what I hear. So,
if you want a shooting game on the VR this year, you want Firewall. That's a fun one. Still not super necessary, but fun.
Gotcha.
Makes sense.
Interesting. It's going to be interesting watching how that moves forward into next year.
Yeah. I I'm gonna skim over it just because it's one of my favorite games I played this year. Kingdom Come Deliverance came out in February. I loved it. Played the hell out of it.
That was an impressive game to come out of nowhere, honestly. For what they did for RPG immersion.
Yep, and also the fact that it was a Kickstarter game originally as well that actually came to fruition and launched and was successful. That is no small claim anymore, especially considering you have things like oh God, what is it called? What's that one Kickstarter game that's like at $220 million?
Star Citizen.
Yes, that one.
That I don't even want to discuss that one.
Yeah,
it's not because I put money into it, but because it sullies the name. Like that Mighty Number 9, like really just hurt the credibility of crowdsourced games to the point where people forget that some of our favorite games this generation have come from Kickstarter. Like games people don't even think about are actually Kickstarter games. Shovel Knight.
Oh yeah, Shovel Knight was.
Used to be a Kickstarter game from Compulsion Studios. That was a Kickstarter.
Yeah. Like all both Divinity Original Sins, like the entire revival of the CRP genre, like
Pillars of Eternity,
Wasteland,
which
Divinity.
That's the only reason Obsidian existed long enough for Microsoft to pick them up.
Pretty much. Like
I'm glad those got made.
I cannot wait for to see what they can do with a real budget.
Oh man, I mean, that's the thing. That's the thing I've been telling people is like they made Pillars of Eternity, and Pillars of Eternity is a great game. Make no mistake.
It is.
But they made that out of survival mode. They made that in order to endure. Obsidian wants to make AAA games. They want to make big RPGs, and the thought of them with a good budget has me foaming at the mouth. Honestly, I can't wait to see what that's going to be like.
Oh yeah.
That's Ninja Theory for me. Knowing the quality of game Hellblade was in general, now the entire studio can basically focus on one, but it's multiple projects, of course. Still, just the funding and the potential that what Ninja Theory can make just makes me foam at the mouth, as like Sam says. Just
So maybe
I'm excited to see what they're going to present.
I know we'd be skipping a couple of games to say this, but maybe this is a good time to have this conversation then in terms of 2018 in review. The ridiculous turnaround and investments that Microsoft are making. I feel we'd be doing a disservice not at least touching on that.
I was going to hop into that when we hit like the E3 portion.
Okay. All right. That's fine.
So we'll get into that. We got to make it to March. We just got out of February.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
No, it's fine. March brought us Sea of Thieves and Far Cry 5, if I remember correctly.
I'm gonna do some honorable mentions that we won't spend a lot of time on. Warhammer Vermintide 2. If you have a couple of friends, play that game.
Fantastic game. Love it. It's so good. So good.
I cannot stress this enough. I haven't played this personally, but from everyone I've talked to, spend $30, grab your best friend, buy A Way Out.
I've played A Way Out. It is very good. It's very good.
Ni no Kuni 2, Revenant Kingdom. Came out in March.
Sorry, I got my platinum in that game.
Oh no, I remember you talking about. I remember you enjoyed that.
I recently purchased it. I'm looking forward to diving into it. I've never played the
I'll
previous
just tell you
title.
right now, don't sleep on building up your kingdom. The end of the game has a gateway where if you haven't upgraded it to that point, you can't progress until you do. So do it gradually throughout the game, or you'll find yourself having to do a lot of backtracking.
Oh, so it's one of those things. If you do everything naturally as it comes up, the end game's decent. But if you miss some stuff along the way, you have to go back and grind through it to build up your
And
kingdom.
to be fair, the game hits you over the head with that mechanic. It's like, hey, do this. If you choose to ignore it, you'll kind of be screwed. But otherwise, you're safe.
Okay, fair enough. I will keep that in mind going forward. So, first game we'll talk about, we'll skip Sea of Thieves for just this second. Far Cry 5. I'm going to say it's a return to form for Far Cry because I love Far Cry 3, and I played about 3 hours of Far Cry 4, and I fell asleep. And when I say I fell asleep, I legitimately fell asleep playing that game.
Far Cry 4 is fantastic. Far
Cry 4 was terrible. The villain was terrible. Far Cry 5 was fantastic in the fact that it gave you multiple villains to deal with, and the sheer scope of the game was fantastic. And plus, ransacking the Midwest United States was endlessly fun. There were some really fun side characters, some absolutely amazing side missions, like rustling up bull testicles within the first hour of that game for a cookout was probably one of my. I sat there and went, "Is this really what we're doing?" Yeah, no. You get pissed drunk and pass out in a field after the festival, and you wake up and you're like, "I don't remember anything," and it's absolutely great game. Also one of those games that sold exceptionally well this year, especially in comparison to its previous title. That was the best-selling game for this year for a while. Did anyone else play Far Cry 5, or am I alone on this one?
I played Far Cry 5, and I liked it. It was good. I didn't finish it. I got most of the way through it. It was good. Another step up.
I'm going to tell you that right now. If you haven't finished it, but you enjoyed it, don't finish it.
Okay.
The ending. Okay. I was saying while I was in the process of reviewing that game, I was saying at 9 out of 10 for the game. And then I finished the game the last hour, and then it literally knocked it down 12 points to a 7.8. It was terrible decision making on the ending. In my opinion,
your decisions,
choices,
choices, yeah, choices.
I guess Sam can talk about Sea of Thieves.
Okay, now wait. All right, I know it's a contentious topic. I know not everyone is a big fan. I have my complaints about Sea of Thieves. But A, it's nice for Rare to make an original game again that does have that Rare charm and that Rare art style. And B, they are supporting that game for everything it's worth. Every single month they've been coming out with new stuff, new mechanics, new features, new enemies, places, ships. And they've even adjusted what they've added to the game based off of player feedback. So they're continuing to throw tools into the toy box for us to play around with. Does that make it a perfect game? No, not by any stretch of the imagination, but it has been a lot of fun. I've had a lot of good times on there, and I'm glad it's doing really well for
them. What I will say on Sea of Thieves, and my social media bashing of that game is more to rag on Ivan more than anything. It wasn't what I expected it was going to be, and that's why I didn't end up enjoying it. But mechanically, no game has ever done ship sailing as well as Sea of Thieves. And that's saying something when you take into consideration things like Assassin's Creed and how well Assassin's Creed 4 did ship mechanics and everything that way. The game did exceptionally well in some things and terrible in other aspects. But I'm glad they're working on the game and they're taking player feedback, because in a online focused game, your player's experience is the most important aspect. And the fact they're continuously adding content, constantly updating things and everything else, no matter how well or how little that game is doing, it's good to see them have continuous support and updates.
Yeah. I mean, that's the key to games as a service games. Are they going to get the support to fully realize their vision? Because can you ever recall a games as a service game that came out of the gate with everything you wanted to keep your interest from the start?
Nope. Rainbow Six Siege is a turnaround story of the generation.
That's the poster child of the turnaround.
Yeah, Ubisoft games in general.
Yeah, because they did the same with The Division.
For Honor.
The same with For Honor. They're going to do the same with Division 2. I'm calling it now. It's going to come out, have a really good
Ubisoft
first
titles
day.
In general.
Yeah.
Just any Ubisoft title that's
if Ubisoft comes out with a game as a service model, come to it a year later, and you'll be like, wow, this game's amazing.
And not only that, but we got to give Rare credit as well. There are no microtransactions in that game.
Correct.
Still, to this day, they're doing this off of support. So, that's also praiseworthy, given that we now live in a time where loot boxes are being investigated. But I don't want to go down that.
Yeah, no, that's a very fair point, especially since everyone's got games as a service model under such a fine microscope of how are you monetizing your player base and everything else, to have absolutely no monetization aspects other than buying the game itself. That's a great model. And people keep coming back to it, and that is one of the beauties of Game Pass. Is like, I re-downloaded Sea of Thieves today. I haven't played it since launch because I'm kind of curious to see what state the game's in now. And I didn't buy it at launch, but I have Game Pass, so I can play it. It's the beauty of that whole system of being able to try it out 6 months down the road without feeling burned about the $60 I would have spent on the game.
Yeah, the Game Pass aspect of it was amazing. Because I guarantee if I had paid $60 at launch, I would have been not happy.
That's fair. That is totally fair.
Yeah, for sure. So we're now into April/June. Hellblade came to Xbox One, which meant more people got to play Hellblade.
Good.
Great.
Good.
Yakuza 6, The Song of Life, came out on PS4.
Son.
And Yakuza getting the shine it deserves and making me love it more than any other. I can't even find it. There's not even a game I can compare it to. Like, when people are like, if you could compare Yakuza to something, what would you compare it to? I'm like, it's its own unique entity, and I will scream from the top of a building, if you have not played Yakuza yet, go play Yakuza. And start with Zero, because Zero is absolutely fantastic. And Kiwami was free with PS Plus last month, so nobody has any excuses anymore. And then the big one for April.
I don't think there was anything else in April. We can move on.
Yeah, there was nothing in April.
There was nothing in April. Okay, moving on. God of War. I
thought we weren't talking about indie games.
No, we said we were talking about.
Oh, my bad. Okay, please continue.
I'm glad we're clarifying this.
Lordy.
I mean, here's the thing. Look, people have talked about God of War in depth, and we can't do it justice here talking about 2018 review. But holy crap, that game came back, and that franchise came back in a huge way.
Let's give it a logical statement, blanket statement that it came back, it blew people away. It's a phenomenal game. Whether it wins Game of the Year or not, it still deserves it right beside Red Dead Redemption 2. And that's how it is. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. You guys can't disagree with that statement. Sorry.
No, that's a fair thing. Like, it's an incredible game, and honestly, it's the best in the series. I honestly 100% believe that. The Norse setting, the one shot, basically, for the whole thing, the combat, the story, the emotions, the voice acting, just
very well done.
You can't find something in that game that isn't done and perfectly implemented. It's fantastic. I'm so happy that that's been a massive success for them.
Yeah. Like, all I'll say is, like, it's for God of War for me. I've been a God of War fanboy since the first one. Like, that was what made me buy a PlayStation, was God of War. I loved it. I was an angry teenager, and God of War catered to that in every aspect. Now I'm older, I have kids, and it's like the game grew up with me. I know that's not the intention they had with the game, but it's interesting at how it changed and how the story affected me differently because of being a parent. It hit me in a different way. I've talked with other people that are parents, and they said the same thing. It just hits you in a different sort of way with how the story unfolded and everything else. And just the sheer guts it took for Corey and his team to come out and be like, so it's God of War, but it's got emotions, and people are like,
Yep. Like, I don't know if you can warp your mind back to March. Back when, or even before that, when the new reveal was finally shown, and the hate people were throwing at it for being a God of War with emotions and no jumping and the over-the-shoulder camera and all the jokes about it being another walking simulator. Fast forward to now, and it's like
every complaint.
Yeah,
seems ridiculous.
Kratos can't jump. I don't want to buy this crap.
I forgot about the Kratos can't jump thing.
Just be honest. Let's just be honest here. They humanized Kratos. A couple of years ago, that would have seemed like a laughable, ridiculous statement.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was so happy because I was one of those people, like when God of War got revealed at E3, first of all, that orchestra just sent me into ultra hype mode. Yeah. But the thing is heading into that game, I was kind of nervous. I sat there and went, how are they going to do this? Because they want to make it a more emotional experience. I was kind of like, I don't know. I like angry Kratos. And then it was like, it's not the same voice actor. There's so many different aspects where I was sitting there like, if this is terrible, I'm going to cry.
Oh, yeah. There were so many different ways it could have been misstepped.
Yeah. And it was so from the first encounter with I think where I fully believed how great this game was the first fight with the stranger.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was literally
fight is...
I can't remember who said it. It was someone I follow. That is the best superhero fight that's ever been done in a video game that doesn't have superheroes.
Greg Miller. Greg Miller's the one who said that. And
I couldn't remember.
100% spot on. Like, tossing each other through the trees. They're punching and catching each other's punches, and the ground shatters beneath them. That was like, okay, this isn't Kratos in his prime beating up wimpy Greek gods. This is two titans brawling, obliterating everything around them. It was it was beautiful. And I'm not gonna lie, because I hadn't really gotten to like Kratos yet, seeing him get smacked around for a bit was actually a bit satisfying, if I'm being perfectly honest.
The greatest part is, like, it's not even the main god, not even one of the big gods. He's just a son of another son of a god, and you go, oh boy, what are we in for in the next couple of games going on here?
I think to wrap up God of War, I think the turning point that made me go, oh, this is a God of War game, was how they integrated the Spartan rage, like how they introduced it in that fight with the stranger, and you punch your way out of basically a rock face. Because he's like, well, I'm going to go get your son. And you're like, no. And then you just punch your way out of a rock face and just absolutely pummel the guy into the dirt. I'm like, this is so good.
I have an anecdote about God of War whenever you're done.
Yeah, go for it.
Please, by all means.
The thing about God of War, and what I'll say is I like to point out is one of the reasons why this game is special. That I remember Saki saw me do the intro, and by the time I got to that fight, I was given a rule that I was no longer allowed to play God of War unless she was there, because she didn't want to miss any of the story. That's how quickly she's never played any of the other God of War. She didn't know anything about Kratos.
It's that good.
The game was that good on standalone, and she didn't have to be told anything about the previous games to get what Kratos was about.
No.
And I really thought that was a mark of a good game, that it was that good of an entry point, that someone had no knowledge of Kratos ahead of time and had never played a God of War game and was that engrossed in the story. And by the end of it was like, holy shit.
I can back up that anecdote with another one. Not only my brothers who played it, they never played the other games and they loved it, but my mom. She barely plays any games, though she started playing a few more. And she played God of War. And once she picked up the controller, she basically couldn't put it down. She played through it in like a week, and she absolutely loved it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're one of the few human beings out there that hasn't played it yet, go play it. Seriously.
I know, right?
You gotta play it.
Yeah, for sure. And there's one more game I want to mention for April. There's two. The one I know Sam will have a yeah moment about, as that's Frostpunk.
Frostpunk is a great game, and more people need to play it. Okay, it's by 11-Bit Studios. It's the same people that made This War of Mine. If anyone's ever played that, and it's that same harsh post-apocalyptic tone. And plus it's just cool tech. It's a cool aesthetic of a blizzard has come in, the earth is cooling, the sun is dimming, and you're in charge of the last human survivors creating a steampunk city to survive. It's awesome. And you have to make moral decisions to keep everybody. Like, I don't even like city builders, and I love that game. Go play Frostpunk.
Frostpunk was. I remember the first time I lost my entire, I guess, like settlement is what you'd call it, because I was not very good at managing my resources.
And the final game, and I'll be alone on this one, is one of my favorite games of this year, just because I'm a huge fan of the show. South Park, The Fractured But Whole was an absolute classic that I loved every second.
Was that this year?
Yeah,
that was last year.
Oh,
it came out on the Switch this year, but it was
that was last year.
Yeah, that would help. That would explain a lot. That would explain a lot. I'm sitting there looking at it going, I didn't play that after.
No. I got my platinum in it last year. I love both of the South Park RPGs.
Okay, no, yeah, that's right. It says right here, Nintendo Switch. I thought I was going to get to talk about South Park today. Damn it. Okay.
That's how long 2018 has been. You think last holiday was this April?
Good Lord. Yeah, it's.
However, I will call you out for not talking about Hello Kitty Cruisers. Sorry.
Yeah, I'll take the massive loss on that one. I'm sorry.
Take your L.
Yeah, I'll take my L with honor.
Or for May, what we got?
We got all the Persona dancing games. Those are worth talking about. We've got Dark Souls Remastered came out. Made a lot of people that maybe didn't give the first game a shot give it a shot.
Well worth it. It was fantastic. Love that game.
I played a good solid 8 hours, which is 7.5 hours longer than I played on the Xbox 360 version. Need to go back and keep playing it, but
yes, you do.
Detroit Become Human came out in May. Did anyone play that? Or
yep,
sure did.
Okay. Any thoughts on that? Did you guys
that was another game that Saki forbid me to play without her, because that was actually that's a really fun game to play with someone. Just any of those like Until Dawn adventure style games,
or the Telltale games.
Yeah. Making the decisions with somebody and trying to make your argument and make a choice while the rapidly decreasing time frame goes down makes it a lot more dynamic of a game than it would have been if it was just me sitting by myself.
Oh yeah, and those games are good to play by yourself. But
we saved all the androids.
Yay! I haven't picked it up yet. I might try and find a copy.
Look, David Cage is a very polarizing director, and I understand that. But I actually just really enjoyed Detroit, and I don't apologize for that, even though I know it's difficult because how do people tend to make it hard to divorce themselves from the politics around the games, because much like with Red Dead, prior to Detroit's launch, there was a lot of reports and accusations about work environment for the company. So it does feel a little difficult for me to sit there and have enjoyed it knowing that. But sometimes it's like with comics or any media, a lot of times you just have to make that choice of where your threshold is for where you divorce the art from the artist.
Yeah,
that's fair.
And see, I'll pick up Detroit Become Human. I'll buy a used copy or a pre-owned copy because I made a stand against supporting Cage as a whole. That was a decision I made a long time ago. But the thing is that the game's so polarizing everything else, I know I'm doing myself a disservice by skipping it. And I just refuse to give him money, and that's my own issue. And I had the same problem with Red Dead, is I sat there with all the things that came out about it and everything else. I just sat there and went, do I buy this game?
That's the problem.
It's like, And with Red Dead, it just came to the conclusion is it doesn't matter if I don't buy this game because 15, 20 million other people are going to buy this game regardless of what happens, which is unfortunate. But so we had that. We had State of Decay 2, which I enjoyed a lot.
I had fun with it.
It was good.
Sam had fun with it with his bags of Microsoft Gold.
Oh,
certainly another Game Pass success story.
Yep.
Oh yeah, another Game Pass success story. Hey, I don't think anyone expected that to top the May NPD. That took everyone by surprise. That was funny.
The next month it had cratered off into like number 19, but hey.
Sure.
It had its 15 minutes of fame.
It had its 15 minutes of fame. It made its money. It's also, all the issues have been fixed with it now. I know that doesn't excuse the fact that
it's less for me. It's more like at least Sea of Thieves has been very vocal about their progression and their updates and how the game has changed. But I feel like State of Decay 2 has been a void. I don't know. Like, I don't play.
No, they've been a lot quieter.
But even I know that the changes and updates have been coming, and the game is a far cry from its launch. But State of Decay 2, if you asked me what was different, I would say maybe they ironed out some glitches. I don't know.
No, and that's the thing. Most of their stuff has been fixing physics issues. It's been fixing bugs. I mean, they've added a horde mode. They've added some other weapons and stuff, but most of their improvements have simply been quality of life stuff. And that's okay. That's what they need to focus on. That's fine. But that's what that's been. It's a fun game. If you have Game Pass, it's worth downloading. It's worth checking out. I'm looking forward to seeing, what they do in the future.
Yeah.
But
we're gonna skip on through May because the rest is a ton of games coming to Switch, such as Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze and some games that didn't get their shine on the Wii U coming across. So that's great.
Guess we hit E3 then?
What's that, sorry?
I guess we hit E3 then?
Yeah, we're at June. A couple of notable releases for June, at least in my mind, is Shaq Fu: A Legend Reborn. Vampire came out.
That was a good game. It's a good game.
I liked Vampire a lot, and I think the most recent patch, which gave it an easy mode, because a lot of problem people had was if you wanted to go the pacifist route, the game got
difficult,
aggressively hard.
Which, it's the same route I kind of took, and I got to a point where I'd be doing these missions, but all the enemies would be 3-4 levels, and that's a significant level gap for damage and health mitigation. Like, it's when there's one level and enemies one level up in comparison to you in Vampire, it's okay. It's a little tough, and then when it's 2 levels above, getting really tough. Like anything past that, it's like he just went Hulk mode on your ass.
Vampire,
so having to fight entire groups.
Yeah, and it's nuts. So when they put in an easy mode and also a hardcore mode, but with the easy mode, I'm just like, finally, I can play the way I've been wanting to.
Vampire is one of those games where I know it wasn't perfect, but I think it's one of Focus Home Interactive's bigger games so far in terms of stuff they've published. And I know it's very different too. You're absolutely right. It's very unique. I saw it at E3 2017, and I loved what I saw there. I know it's not perfect. The issue for me was it came out right as I was getting ready to go for E3, and I wasn't able to cover it. And then when I got back, I got slammed with work and stuff, so I haven't been able to try it. But I do want to play Vampire at some point.
I'm sure it'll be a discounted game soon.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like, if you can find it anywhere for $29.99, it's a steal at that price, especially with the new updates.
Yeah,
with the holidays, it's only a matter of time.
Yeah, so we're closing in on it's gonna end up being like close to 2-hour cast here, and I'd like to give Sam a break so they can eat before 10 podcasts tonight, because Sam likes to put himself through 4 hours of podcasting on Saturday nights.
Crazy.
We're gonna basically wrap up this conversation with E3 2018 because that was a thing. That was a thing that happened. And this is probably the most attentive to E3 I had to be that I've ever been because of having to write a lot of the stuff that came out with Jared. I'd never paid attention to every E3 announcement. This was the first time I watched a Ubisoft conference, and I was royally confused about the dancing panda, but
hey, can't have an Ubisoft without a Just Dance party.
Yeah.
Man, I'm sorry, but Ubisoft let me down. No Splinter Cell. I'm still not over that.
I still can't.
We got pandas. We got dancing pandas and a dancing troupe and a stage and Just Dance 4. Come on.
Matt, what were you saying?
I was gonna say this E3 is special because Sam and I met in person.
Yes, it was. That was awesome.
We became the bestest of friends.
Awesome.
And we all got alongside others as well. We got to go have beer and burgers together, and that was fantastic.
Very good.
And we need to make it. We need to make it a tradition if we can.
Agreed. Everyone at E3 meets at the Yard House and has a burger and some beers.
That sounds fantastic to me.
All right. I can get down with that.
I remember it was funny because I actually sat down. I was one of the first ones into the Microsoft Theater, thank God, because it was hot out there.
Oh my God. I got a sunburn.
Dude, I still haven't recovered. My arms are still tanned from that. I'm not kidding. But I got in, I was panting, and I was like, all right, I got to wipe my sweat off here and settle down. And I remember seeing you guys filter in. So I messaged Zach. I was like, hey, look behind you. That was funny.
So E3 was a huge event this year. There was a lot of big things that showed up. There was a lot of things that didn't show up. I miss E3 back when Shinobi used to leak stuff. I feel like the accuracy was a lot better back then.
2018, we've lost a lot of leakers.
Yeah. No one does. That's the problem, is that a lot of the accurate leakers have gone legit. That's the problem.
Yeah.
We lost Shinobi. We lost Z Huge. We lost. I mean, I know he never really leaked a lot, but he dropped some nuggets. He dropped some good nuggets. Who else? There was one other guy that he didn't go legit. He just disappeared. I can't remember what his name was.
Now we have Clobril.
We do. We have gained Clobril. And if you are in, I used to say if you're an Xbox fan, follow him. If you're interested in the industry at all, follow him. Because I don't know where he's getting his info, but he knows things about some interesting movements going on.
That man on a regular basis, Sam knows from our DM conversations, that man, I need to meet him. I need to know. I just need to know. There's things I need to know at this point.
Clobril, if you're listening, we'd love to have a chat.
Yeah, I'd love to have a chat, because there's times that information falls into my DMs, and then I look at it, and then I hit the home button on my Twitter page, and you're tweeting about it at the same time. So you know the same people. There's something going on here. It's spooky. But no, E3 2018 was a huge event for a lot of different reasons. This was we'll break it down in sections. Sony's E3 was interesting. They tried to change the format on how they did their E3.
They succeeded in changing the format.
They succeeded. The games they showed off looked very impressive. What they showed was amazing. Was it the best viewing experience from the couch at home? No. The venue change thing, and then it was terrible. The presentation itself was.
Sorry, what was that? I couldn't hear you. What'd you say?
I said it was awesome live.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like everyone I know that was physically there said it was like one of the coolest E3 conferences they've ever been to. When you're at home, you're sitting there and they showed off The Last of Us Part 2, and you're sitting there and you're like vibrating because it was so cool. And then they're like, we're changing venues, so we're gonna pan over to these people, and you get Black Ops 3 free on PSN. I'm like,
yeah. I will say that the non-main 4 games that they did show at the conference, like Remedy's Control, and the way the world exploded at the Resident Evil 2 remake reveal.
Oh yeah,
that stuff was awesome.
Yeah, no, that stuff was fantastic. Both of those games,
we got games, the conference was good, but
that was the thing. It was
Xbox's just rapid fire game.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't compare favorably, But at the end of the day, looking at the checklist of everything that actually was shown, it was a solid conference. Just
it was a solid lineup.
Sucked out some of the energy.
I will say though, I'll start with my only real negative in the game shown. I don't think it was necessary to show what they did of Spider-Man. I honestly believe, like, having played it, they showed way too much.
If they had not shown that scene, because showing all the Sinister Six members that popped up, that would have been a blow your mind moment in the game.
Yes,
but when you got to that part of the raft, you're like, oh, this is from E3. Shit, this would have been awesome.
And I mean, I won't spoil it, but the thing is, by process of elimination, it makes who the big bad villain is obvious. It made things obvious right from the get-go. So don't do that in the future, please.
Yeah.
But no, Ghost of Tsushima looks jaw-dropping. Death Stranding
looks like a game.
It's a game. Death Stranding is a game.
Hey, that gave us the best. Death Stranding gave us the best walking animation gifs in history.
Look, as much as I will mock it and lampoon it and make fun of it, I am legitimately interested in Death Stranding. Okay?
Oh, I am too. It's Kojima's first step outside Metal Gear in how many years, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you think about what they could have done with Silent Hill?
Now, my prediction is straight up that it's going to be a Breath of the Wild situation.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
PS5 launch game, but it'll also come out on PS4.
Yeah, cross-gen game. It'll be the last big game coming on PS4, but it'll also have a bigger, better mode for PS5 at launch. November 2020. Lock it in.
Lock it in.
And Last of Us Part 2, which, by the way, is a 2020 game. That's not coming next year. I'm just going to break people's hearts. But it looks incredible.
Will be Ghost of Tsushima, though.
You think?
I'm calling it.
Okay, I think Ghost of Tsushima is like a February 2020.
If I can get Sekiro and Ghost of Tsushima all in 1 year, I'm okay with that.
I'm saying next year, okay with that. Sekiro, Days Gone, Ghost of Tsushima.
Well, Sekiro's not exclusive, but
I know.
Yeah,
but he mentioned. I'm just saying we'll get all three of those games.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay.
Although on the exclusive side of things, when do you think we're getting Neo 2?
I
don't know.
The thing is, Neo 1, by the time they revealed it to its launch, was a very short window. So
right. And it's been Koei Tecmo, let's be honest here, they're not exactly rolling in money. They're not exactly.
Well, I'm gonna stop you right there. Those Dynasty games print them money.
Okay, well, all right.
Now we're not talking. They're not as successful as like.
They're not ridiculously well. Company. Neo was a surprise hit. What I'm trying to say is Neo was a surprise hit for them. It's obvious that they're going to capitalize on that.
Oh yeah. We'll get Neo 2's a thing. Whether or not the problem is they're not going to want to release it too close to Ghost of Tsushima. Sony's not going to want both of those feudal games too close to each other.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
We'll see. That's the reason I don't think Ghost of Tsushima is 2019. But hey, here's the thing. I would love to be wrong about it, though. I would love to be wrong. We'll see what happens.
Ghost of Tsushima is like 5 years in development.
Yeah, but they said it was 55% done at E3.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I'm banking on it as a holiday, not a holiday. Sony doesn't do AAA holiday.
Like September. You like a September game.
Like a Spider-Man release.
Spider-Man window. It'll get the Spider-Man window.
We will revisit this conversation. And I honestly hope you're right. Smash is a thing that sums up Nintendo.
I was gonna say the Nintendo Smash Direct was amazing.
Don't ever ask Sakurai for anything ever again.
Yeah,
that's probably the best way that I can put it. Yeah, exactly, man. Like, and by the way, we need to swap friend codes.
Deal.
We need to swap friend codes because I actually do have a Switch now.
Just in case anyone's confused, Eevee is better than Pikachu. Don't at me.
Oh, he's putting that out.
I most certainly will be adding you with all my alt accounts.
But no, Smash that's fan service. That game is pure raw fan service, and it looks fantastic. It should be awesome. That's pretty much Nintendo. Their stuff is more beyond Smash. Their stuff is more 2019. They've kind of had a lighter 2018 in terms of big games. And it's to be fair because 2017 was a blowout. 2018 is them kind of coasting, but ending on a high note. 2019 will be another strong year for them.
Yes.
So that looks good.
I mean, Pokemon Let's Go is very strong.
Mm-hmm.
But next year with a true Pokemon game and hopefully Metroid Prime 4 and
Luigi's Mansion 3, Animal Crossing.
I think we'll have to pick
Pikmin next year.
Pikmin would be awesome. I would love a Pikmin.
I think we'll get the first look at the next Mario or Zelda game.
Why is it that I have to get a PSVR and a Switch now? Like,
sorry,
still got money for that. And
see, my biggest thing is the one thing I want the Switch to bring back, and the reason why I associate this game with Nintendo is because I played it on GameCube. I need a Nintendo Switch Harvest Moon game.
Oh God, you mean Stardew Valley?
Yeah, basically. Yeah, Stardew Valley. That's what you got. Basically, it is. And but like, if you haven't played Stardew Valley yet, by the way, Nick, you gotta if you like Harvest Moon, because I loved Harvest Moon. As soon as I started playing Stardew Valley, I'm like, yep, that's exactly what this is. This is basically Harvest Moon.
Okay. We're getting close to my allotted time here, so I guess we got to touch on the whole Xbox E3 thing that happened. That was something.
When Phil single-handedly boosted the SEO for the word acquire like 10,000 times over?
Spencer going on stage there.
No, seriously, I'm not kidding. Between THQ Nordic and Microsoft, I've had to use the word acquired more this year than I've used it the past 5 years put together.
My favorite thing that came out of all this was that image I saw earlier last week, and it was a picture of THQ Nordic and Xbox logo, and it was like when both these companies found out about Starbreeze being in financial trouble, and they're like sprinting down the street.
Yeah, no
just absolutely amazing. It's the big thing with Microsoft's E3, and I think the reason why it did so well is because a lot of the past few shows that they had, a big comment was, we don't care about the small stuff. We just want to see video games. We don't care about what you're doing on the UI side of things. We don't care about all this other small stuff you guys always... Yeah. Like, we just care about the games.
Yeah.
And them coming right out the gate with the baseball bat and being like, all right, here's games for half an hour. And then being like, oh, you can now preload games and you can start them from the beginning. And I was sitting there going, oh, here we go. Here comes the small stuff we don't care about. And then they hit with another 30 minutes of game trailers. And yes, there was a lot of third party, and that could be a criticism. They're trying to fill out their lineup right now. They're building their first-party studios. So they filled out the show really well. Ending on Cyberpunk was smart.
That was a reveal for the ages, honestly.
Yes. Starting with Halo was the move, though.
Smartest thing they could have done.
Because I literally remember telling Jared, I was like, how did they start this? Like, where do you start when all eyes are on you and everyone thinks you're going to flop this?
And then you started hearing me fanboying out when I started realizing it was Halo. I'm like, it's Halo. Oh my God, it's Halo. It's Halo. It's Halo. Oh my God.
Well, you and me were saying that we thought it was Fable initially because we were like, oh, big open landscape. Then we're like, wait a minute.
I was like,
it was cool. It was cool to see that. Down the line, we are getting a Halo game. It's supposed to be on this generation. Hopefully, they fix some of the things they've kind of goofed up in the past few games. I'm hoping 343 is learning. I'm hoping. I'm looking at you, Halo 5. Please don't make me cry about spending $50 on a Halo game again.
I think the tone of that trailer and the fact that Halo Wars 2 was a great game, and I'll be dragged down into eternity claiming it was a great game. I think they legitimately have learned, and that's why they're taking the time to get.
If they could just take the story they built in Halo Wars 2 and put it in a mainline Halo game, they'll be fine. Halo Wars 2 would have been an astronomically better Halo 5 story than the Halo 5 story.
Yeah.
Like, Atriox was an absolutely amazing villain that if they don't use him going forward, they're nuts. Or if they don't cook up something similar down the line. I'm still playing through Halo Wars. I keep getting distracted by that damn Blitz mode. It's so much fun.
It's good.
Microsoft basically, when they came out for E3 2018, is they had a mountain of criticism that they needed to deal with. I think what they did with their E3 2018 presentation is they handled a lot of that concern. We are in the console market. We're going to be continuing to be in the console market because they brought up next generation Xbox near the end. We are working on first-party developments. We picked up 5. Ninja Theory's acquisition blew the roof off the damn house, and I thought my Twitter app was going to explode.
That was the biggest shock, I think, out of the whole E3 event. Honestly,
I'd agree with that.
Ninja Theory being acquired by Microsoft. It still takes me back a little bit to this day.
I think the saddest thing that came out about that, though, was hearing from Ninja Theory post E3 and them coming out and saying that we made Hellblade and we put all this work into it and we were looking at studio closure at the end of that. The fact that making a game that good and putting all that heart and soul into that game and it could have still led to the studio being shut down breaks my heart that we live in an industry that
millions of copies and it still hasn't. It's barely broken 1 million copies sold, and I think it's a disservice to not just like the developers and the people who made the game and what the subject of game basis like touches on, but to also gamers themselves. Like it truly is a wonderful experience to have for a game, and if you haven't played it, you really, really should. It's just such a wonderful thing or just a wonderful game to experience.
Yeah, and I think them having funding going forward and Microsoft's acquisitions as a whole, I like the teams they're picking, and they're building a smart future. I don't think necessarily when we were heading in, I'm not sure if the EA rumor came up pre-E3 or if that was after E3. But that whole rumor that, Microsoft was going to buy EA and all that, I'm like, no.
That was like in February. That was early this year.
Okay. And I was like, no, those aren't the teams you want to invest in. You don't want to just buy a big corporation for the sake of buying a big corporation. What your problem is people are saying your games have no soul and you're only selling multiplayer experiences. You need more teams that are giving you passion in their games, and picking up studios like Ninja Theory, who has done fantastic games as a whole, picking up things like Obsidian, In Exile. All these studios make really passion projects, but are always scraping the barrel for budget, marketing, and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Like Pillars of Eternity is one of the best RPG franchises Obsidian has made, but not a lot of people know about it. And I'm hoping that part of these Microsoft backings is going to be getting people to know more about these games and more about these studios and just showcase the absolute talent they have. People do it on Twitter for the sake of console wars. For me, I just want these people that make these games being able to have the funding to fully articulate their vision. I have friends that are indie developers and they're like, oh, if we could do this with our game, this would be so amazing. But we absolutely do not have the budget to do that with our game. And like you play some indie games, you're like, oh, it's really missing this. And at the end of the day, they probably just couldn't afford to do it. And what Obsidian and Ninja Theory have done with budget limitations, people limitations, like you look at the amount of people that worked on Hellblade and then individually worked on, like they made a VR game for it alongside making Hellblade. So they had 2 different versions of that game being built from the ground up. And it was absolutely an astounding accomplishment with the manpower. I can't remember the exact number. It's like, what, 20 people?
Yeah, the entire team was 20 people.
Yeah.
20 people put that game together, and it was on par with a lot of, I'm not going to say full AAA experiences, but it was definitely in the AA upper echelon, and it was cheap. They didn't try to sell it for full price. It was $30.
Yep, and it still didn't sell. Like, man... She sold like 10 million copies.
It's a hard sell. It was a hard sell. Then the amount of research and everything they put into that game. I'll never shut up about that game. That and What Remains of Edith Finch will forever be my just games that emotionally left me sitting there putting my controller going, wow.
Like I felt bad for my Xbox only friends because both Edith Finch and Hellblade were so good. And I can't imagine watching everyone else experience both of those games and then saying to myself, I'll wait a year.
No, you know what kills me?
Nier Automata. That was another one, dude.
Yeah.
For me. But I played it this year and I loved it. Absolutely.
To basically wrap up, because I'm short on time, is when I feel bad because on Multiverse Show we had one of the lead developers from Giant Sparrow that developed What Remains of Edith Finch on the show, and I hadn't played What Remains of Edith Finch yet, so I just kind of sat in the background and like James was really into it and was asking all these questions. I was kind of sitting there going, what's this game about? So we wrapped up the interview. It was a great interview. And then that night I went, I've got to play this game. It's been sitting in my backlog for too long. I need to play this game. So I sat down at like midnight. I played the game. I think I finished it up around it was like 1:30 in the morning. And I was an emotional mess.
Yeah.
That game. Like it took me like 3 hours to de-wind and go to bed. Because just the sheer, that game. Once again, not talking about 2018 game, but still, it's just amazing how far games have come as a whole, and as a format. If you look back to, like, I look back to when I used to be hardcore into shooters and stuff back in like 2010, 2011, and to think where video games are now. It's absolutely mind-blowing, the variety we get and the wider variety that we're seeing having success.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what 2018 has been as a whole, is it's been not necessarily dominated by the top dogs. There's been some underdogs that have done exceptional work in 2018, and I'm hoping 2019 we're going to see more of the same. Any closing thoughts from you guys?
The fact that it took us this long to get through to
half
E3
the year.
2018, and we've covered half the year, and we probably didn't even do a couple of things justice, tells you what an insane year we've had. I listened to some people say, "Oh, 2018 has been a really bad year for games. 2017 is where it was at," and I'm like, "Really?"
Look, 2017 was great, but saying 2017 was great, solid is a fool's errand.
Exactly.
Agreed.
This year has. Honestly, if what you saw this year and what you saw at E3 doesn't interest you in any way, shape, or form, I'm pretty sure you just don't like games.
No, I'm pretty sure you're a Reset Era member at this point.
Oh God.
Damn,
2019 doesn't look like it's gonna have any good games in it. What?
Not like this, Chief. Not like this.
This ain't it, Chief.
This ain't it, Chief.
I don't know about that one, Chief. Okay, I think we just covered all variants. But no, it's been a fantastic year. Even if we only got through half of it, it's been an insane year for games, and I'm really looking forward to the future.
Yeah,
definitely.
The future is bright for video games. We are in as I keep stealing from, once again, I need to remember my sources for this. We are in the video game renaissance right now, where a lot of games that wouldn't have found success a few years ago are finding success now.
Yeah.
And it's great to see. Like, we saw Persona 5 break out of that quote-unquote JRPG niche, and almost anyone I know that has a PS4 has Persona 5 now.
Well, what?
I even own it. I just don't have the time. I need to lose a couple of kids and get a job that doesn't want me there all the time.
A couple of kids, that'd be both your kids. You wouldn't be having any kids after that.
If I played Persona 5 before, I probably wouldn't have had kids because I would have been too busy playing a long JRPG. That's what I should have done.
I was going to say, Angelique might have thanked you for that one. Yep, probably.
Yeah, you're right. So this has been the Gaming Perspective Podcast, the first half of 2018 in review.
Right?
I kind of figured this was going to happen, but it was great talking 2018. There's great things. We're going to be doing our own little mini video game awards for the podcast next week, Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern. So after that, we'll have the actual game awards will be done and over with, and we'll get to see how many times Jeff Keighley's going to have to open an envelope and go, God of War, Red Dead Redemption, God of War. We're going to see how many times he's going to have to do that. But it'll be a good time. I'm going to put out a few polls, too. We're going to do some fan choices, too. And we're going to make Sam do something on the podcast. I haven't decided what it is yet, but it's going to be a poll, and you guys can vote and get Sam to do something goofy on the podcast.
What?
Ooh, I got it. I got it.
On a poll.
Cut his hair live.
Okay, yeah, this is the vibe we need. Okay.
For how much? How much we talking?
I don't know.
I'll throw you in a canvas bag if you believe me.
I ran out of funds, so I'll give you a nylon bag.
God, so we'll do outros here. Sam, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Samuel Tolbert. That's TOLBERT. And please come talk to me about movies, games, tech, TV shows, stuff like that. Happy to talk with you. You can find everything I write on tickgamesnetwork.com. Yeah.
Jared?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at RageVirus_X or as well at tickgamesnetwork.com.
Awesome. And Matt, where can people find you?
I am on the twitter.com as at NOLA Nerdcast. I'm got the NOLA Nerdcast every Wednesday night, and I'm on SDGC every Thursday night. But feel free to talk to me about anything. I love talking games, comics, movies, TV, general stuff. If you're not a nerd, I can still find something to talk about it with you. I just like having conversations on Twitter with good people. I'm always open. My DMs are open. Hit me up.
For sure. And Matt is one of the last few remaining sane people on Twitter. As he holds up Saki. Never mind.
You're a little quick on that one,
bless everybody.
Yeah. Saki bless.
Saki bless. Yes.
Saki bless, and everyone have a great night.